It is surreal to think that the new Bleach anime is literally around the corner, especially considering that we have waited for it to return for over 10 years now. Since the end of the original anime, we had enjoyed the most violent story arc of the series via the 1000-Year Blood War arc. Bleach's final arc had tons of incredible reveals, as we learnt more about the lore and history of the Shinigami, the Quincy, as well as finding out key information about our protagonist Ichigo and the origin of his parents. And we finally had the mystery revealed behind the true circumstances of the death of Ichigo's mother. Despite so much occurring over the 200 chapter span of this final arc, there were several moments during the 1000-Year Blood War arc that needed to be expanded upon, and this is where I'm hoping that the new anime actually pads out some of the moments within this arc. In this video, I want to bring some attention to the top 5 aspects of the 1000-Year Blood War arc that I believe need to be expanded upon when the Bleach anime finally begins airing in October. Hopefully you agree with my picks, as the final arc, despite being very entertaining, it is far from perfect in its current manga form. So join me as we discuss areas of the manga where the anime can improve upon so that it can deliver to us one of the most impactful story arcs in shonen history. Before the video begins, only 20% of the people who actually watch my content are subscribed to the channel. If you enjoy these videos, then subscribe and stick around for more content just like this. Now let's get back to the topic of the video. We are starting this top 5 list of moments that need expanding within the 1000-Year Blood War arc, with events that unfold at the beginning of the story arc, with the number 5 spot going to the first Quincy invasion of the Soul Society. So much occurs at this early portion in the story, and despite it being an impactful introduction to Yhwach and the Quincy, I feel like there were aspects that could have been improved upon if additional context was given by Kubo. The first Quincy invasion happens after a key battle that occurs off screen. I'm talking about Head Captain Yamamoto's Lieutenant Chojiro battling the Sternritter Driscoll. Now this is the battle that impacts Yamamoto and forces him to become a monster once again. It is such a key moment that sets the tone for the final arc. It's a shame that within the manga we only got to see the aftermath of it, with Chojiro being impaled by a Quincy arrow and fired into the 1st Division barracks. Here we learn about the bond between Chojiro and Yamamoto, but it would have been much better if we got to see him fight, especially after knowing that he had tried to use his bankai against the Sternritter, but to no avail. Maybe Kubo didn't want to show Chojiro's final battle, since it would spoil the big reveal that the Quincy can steal bankai, as Chojiro had tried to tell this to Yamamoto only moments before his death. Either way, it would have been more impactful even if we got to see some of the fight instead of it being off screen. I feel like I'm going to be saying this point a lot, since a few of the battles occur off screen during this final arc. Because of the nature of the Quincy's first invasion, there are several battles that take place between the Shinigami and the Quincy, but unfortunately most of them again take place off screen, and I feel like they need to be expanded upon, because the only battles that we properly got to see were Byakuya vs Aznot and Yamamoto vs Yhwach. We don't even know who Rukia or Ukitake were battling during the first invasion, as well as not seeing much of the battles involving the other captains who had their bankai stolen, like Komamura, Soifon and Hitsugaya. And who could forget Kinpachi single-handedly taking out 3 Sternritters and then losing to Yhwach. All of these instances were very brief, and it would be ideal if we had these early battles expanded upon, because it would help to flesh out that first invasion. As things currently stand, I feel like the manga just focuses on the key moments while glancing over the other side battles. And my last point on this is that the Quincy's invasion of Hueco Mundo, which leads up to their attack on the Soul Society, needs to also be shown. I'm sure that I speak for everyone when I say that we want to see how Haribel was captured. We are aware that she was beaten by the Quincy, but was it in a battle against Yhwach, or did she battle one of the Sternritters? It would be great to see more of Haribel, since she didn't really appear again after she is revealed to have been captured. It would be nice to see her playing the role of the Queen of Hueco Mundo, even if it was for a short while, and how the Quincy had gone about launching their attack against the Arancars. Now moving on to the 4th spot on this list, we have an aspect of the 1000-Year Blood War arc that most people have issue with, and it's how the second half of the story arc was handled by Kubo. Excuse me if I go on a bit of a rant here, but even more of the battles during this second half of the arc occur off screen, with powers and abilities not feeling like they were properly explained, and a general feeling of things being rushed and not properly fleshed out, like how they were in the earlier portions of the story. I mean, where to begin? There were so many battles that had felt rushed, and we didn't know the fates of several characters at the end of the arc, as well as the reintroduction of several characters into the story, like Ginjo, Tsukishima and Grimmjow feeling very lackluster. The fates of Urahara, Yoriichi and Grimmjow were never revealed within the manga, manga. We don't know how they had escaped from Askin's gift ball, but within the Can't Be Your Own World light novels, it is revealed that Nell had actually saved them. I feel like this would have been a very important moment to have shown within the aftermath of the 1000-Year Blood War arc. And in regards to the Fullbringers, I remember feeling so excited seeing that Ginjo and Tsukishima were training at Kukakushiba's palace with Ganju. Ultimately, their role in the arc had felt like Kubo had forgotten about them, and he had to shoehorn them into the endgame of the arc. Additionally, I was expecting to learn a lot more about the Sternritter and their origins during the second Quincy invasion, but we only really got to find out the backstory of Hashward and Baz B. Now, while I am grateful for this, I feel like there was so much left on the table when it comes to the Sternritters. They are a fascinating group of characters who are excellently designed, and it is a shame that we never really got to learn more about their lore and history. I was fairly disappointed when the 1000-Year Blood War arc had concluded and we didn't really see Isshin and Ryuken play a larger role within the story, and I find it to be such a missed opportunity to not have more of them during an arc that is essentially a feud between the Quincy and Shinigami. Through Isshin and Ryuken, we see a pair of characters who have befriended each other, despite one of them being a Shinigami and the other being a Quincy. We know that Ryuken had become detached to his Quincy roots, so it would have been an excellent way to wrap up his character arc to have him more involved here, as he could have explained why he had distanced himself from the Quincy. Why is it that he held the belief that the Quincy would have been better off left in the past with his father's generation? Ryuken ideally should have spoken to Uryu more during this arc, similar to how Isshin had spoken to Ichigo during the Everything But the Rain flashback. There should have been some sort of conversation between them, which should have helped us to understand why Ryuken is donning the attire of the Quincy that he despises, and why Uryu had decided to become a doctor by the end of the manga. And another pretty big missed opportunity, which would have been entertaining to see, is if Ryuken had assisted Uryu during his battle against Hashward, and meanwhile Isshin would have had the perfect opportunity to reunite with his former subordinate Hitsugaya, as there was potential for him to join the battle against Gerard Valkyrie. Now, speaking of Uryu versus Hashward, I really do think that there was so much left to show during their battle. We never got to appreciate just how powerful Uryu has become after acquiring the antithesis. He had used his power, but we didn't really see the extent of his abilities. Additionally, we need more of an explanation as to how his powers actually work. Their battle is constantly interrupted, as a lot of it takes place off screen. We cut away from it and we cut back to it after some blows have been exchanged, and we mostly see all of the dialogue during their exchange but none of the action. I feel like a key character like Uryu and the second in command Hashward definitely needed more time given to their battle. It once again felt like a rushed encounter that is in desperate need of expansion. Now, it will be a while until Uryu vs Hashward will be adapted into anime form, but I am fairly confident that they will have a properly fleshed out battle when the anime finally adapts it. The second half of the 1000-Year Blood War arc involves a lot of story beats that are centered around the key figure of the Bleach world, which is of course their god, the Soul King. A lot about the Soul King is revealed within the Can't Be Your Own World light novels. However, I feel like we really needed to learn more about his history within the manga, since it would have really helped us to appreciate the motives of Yhwach more. During the arc, we learnt about the Soul King being Yhwach's father, and for some reason he pities the Soul King and wants to end his existence. If only we had learnt more about the Soul King's backstory, it would have helped us to sympathize with Yhwach more, as the lines of right and wrong are blurred after learning about what was done to the Soul King by the ancestors of the 5 great noble families and the leader of the Shinigami Ichibe. The reality that the Soul Society is founded upon a lie, and the world that Ichigo and the Shinigami are protecting was built upon betrayal and deceit. If we had learnt more about the Soul King's unfortunate role within the original sin, then it would have helped to expand upon the lore of the Bleach world and bring more clarity to the actions of Yhwach. I feel like this has a high probability of being expanded upon or included within the anime, especially if they are going to adapt light novels like Can't Be Your Own World into the new anime, since we learn within Can't Be Your Own World that Yhwach was turned into the new Soul King at the end of the arc. One of the biggest issues about the final arc is the role that the Zero Division had played within the story. This was a cast of characters that were hyped to be some of the strongest Shinigami in the series, but when it came to their time to shine, unfortunately they were tossed aside like they were nothing. While it was incredible to see Nimaya single-handedly take down the Schutzstaffel, it was disappointing that none of the other members got to properly showcase their powers. At the very least, the Zero Division each deserved their own 1 vs 1 battles against Yhwach's elite soldiers. But after the Schutzstaffel were initially defeated, Yhwach had revived them, making them stronger than ever, as they had then proceeded to disappointingly defeat the Zero Division during an off-screen encounter. This was one of the earliest signs of the arc starting to rush through story beats just to get to the conclusion of the series, resulting in the Zero Division being one of the biggest disappointments within the entire manga. Now, to wrap up the additions that I want made to the second Quincy invasion, I would have liked to have seen Aizen play more of a role within the story. Instead, he is taken out of Muken by Shunsui, but he doesn't even go to the Soul King's palace, which makes me question what was the point of Shunsui asking for his help, but then not taking advantage of him being on the battlefield. While Kubo was still able to involve Aizen during the final battle, I feel like we could have had a proper battle between Aizen and the Sternritters. Maybe he could have fought alongside Urahara during his battle against Askin. Now, after that long rant, we move on to the third spot on this list of moments that need expanding upon, with my next pick being related to the bankais that are shown and not shown within the final arc. We never really got to see Aizen or Ukitake's bankai, which seems to be one of the biggest missed opportunities of this arc, as well as the role of Ukitake totally feeling lackluster during the final arc, despite him being the host of Mimihagi. I felt like there was so much wasted potential when it comes to his character, and in regards to the bankai that we did get to see, I feel like we definitely need to see more of Unohana's bankai, as I have no doubt that the battle between Kinpachi and Unohana will be expanded upon, since it's one of the most highly anticipated moments of the 1000-year Blood War arc. I would also love if they could provide more context by explaining how a bankai works. Now, speaking about bankai that need to be expanded upon, we definitely need to see more of Ichigo's true bankai. All we know is that after he had activated it, Yhwach had immediately broken it in the future, because he was able to foresee just how formidable it was. What is the true ability of Ichigo's bankai that Yhwach was so afraid of that he had to immediately take care of it? We all were looking forward to seeing Ichigo use his bankai during the final arc, but we never got to see him use any abilities in his bankai form, as we're pretty much left to assume that his bankai has the power to alter fate, which is what I have assumed as my own headcanon. We also had some new bankai reveals, like the true bankai of Renji and the newly revealed bankai of Rukia and Kinpachi, so there is a lot of potential for these moments that involve bankai to be expanded upon and given more context. Now, moving on to the number 2 aspect of the final arc that I really want to be included within the anime is the original battle between the Shinigami and the Quincy, which had occurred 1000 years ago. Not only would this provide more context to some of the characters, it would really make this feud feel like it had spanned over a millennia, as we see the original Gotei 13 and how much they differ from the Gotei 13 of today, and we'd also see the change in both Yamamoto and Yhwach since their first encounter. So much of the 1000-year Blood War arc is underpinned by the original battle that had taken place over 1000 years ago, so I feel like it was such a missed opportunity to not include this within the final arc, as we only get to see hints of this foundational battle between the Quincy and Shinigami but nothing more. If this original battle is shown within the new anime, then it would give us an opportunity to learn about the key events that occur in the time since the Quincy were defeated, like why Soken Ishida and his family were not involved with Yhwach and his army, what happened to Yhwach after he was defeated, as well as how the Gotei 13 have changed over the course of time. The original battle is crucial to understanding the emotions of Head Captain Yamamoto, because as Mayuri had stated at the start of the arc, it was because Yamamoto had failed to kill Yhwach 1000 years ago that now the Soul Society is paying the price for it. The anime has the potential to dedicate time to this original battle, either before the arc begins or during the Quincy's first invasion of the Soul Society, when Yamamoto begins his second battle against Yhwach. So now we have reached our number 1 spot on this list as the most important aspect of the final arc that I want to be expanded upon in the anime is the final battle against Yhwach. This fight had involved so many individuals, as we have Ichigo, Aizen, Renji, Uryu, Isshin and Ryuken all play some role in helping to defeat the leader of the Quincy. It is a shame that a truly impactful story arc like this one concludes on such a anticlimactic note. While I feel like Kubo does really well to convey the key beats of the final arc, I feel like more needs to be done to connect all of the events together. I am aware that a lot of people were confused about how Yhwach was defeated, especially considering that he can use a broken power like the Almighty. However, if you break down this final battle and look at the role that each of the participants play, then it makes sense how the collaborative effort of everybody working together had resulted in them being able to overcome Yhwach. especially considering Aizen was using Kyokasu Yugetsu, Uryu had fired the still silver arrowhead, Tsukishima and Orihime had healed Ichigo's Zanbakudo, and Ichigo's true bankai possibly has the power to alter fate. I mean, this is all so much to take in, and it occurs in under 5 chapters, as the story wraps up and we have an epilogue of the manga without a proper aftermath of the events of this devastating arc. Like I had mentioned earlier, Ryuken had the chance to come with Uryu to confront Yhwach. Aizen could have unleashed his bankai here. Ichigo had the opportunity to demonstrate his true bankai, and in general, all of these changes and additions that could have been made would truly help to make Yhwach's defeat feel more believable and less anticlimactic. After you have such an epic story arc and a huge final battle against the big bad, it would have made sense if we were shown the aftermath of the events that had unfolded. But unfortunately in the manga, the 1000-year Blood War arc doesn't have much of an aftermath, as we cut straight away into a 10-year time skip, as we have the epilogue of the series. I mentioned some of these points earlier, but what was the fate of Urahara, Yoruichi and Grimmjow? What happened to the Soul King? How does Aizen just accept going back to Muken? How do the Gotei 13 deal with the aftermath of the arc? I know a lot of these questions are answered within Can't For Your Own World, but I feel like they really need to be included within the manga. So I truly hope that the anime has a better conclusion for the 1000-year Blood War arc, and one that doesn't just abruptly cut away and give us a time skip out of nowhere. We don't even get a single chapter which helps us to bring the arc to a proper close. So yeah, the final battle with Yhwach and the aftermath of the 1000-year Blood War arc is the #1 addition that I want to be made to the new Bleach anime. I feel like there was so much that was promised during the time that the 1000-year Blood War arc was being serialized within the pages of Shonen Jump. I remember imagining that this would be an arc that would see the Fullbringers, Arrancars and Shinigami all working together to defeat a common enemy in the form of the Quincy. However, things panned out quite differently from how I had initially envisioned them to be. There were characters like Isshin, Ryuken, Ginjo and Tsukishima, which I feel like could have been utilized a bit better during the final arc. In general, I felt like we would see the Fullbringers and Arrancars do more than what they did, so it would be great to see them playing a larger role within the anime. I hope that you agree with some of the points that I've spoken about during this discussion, as there were several moments that need to be changed or expanded upon when the anime finally returns. If you agree or disagree with anything that I have said, then definitely leave a comment under this video, as I'm looking forward to continuing this discussion with all of you. I can't wait to read all of your thoughts on the potential changes for the new anime, and lastly, thank you for making it to the end of this video, and I can't wait to see you in my next Bleach video. If you enjoy my content, then you can support my channel through Patreon for as little as $1 a month, or even through YouTube by becoming a channel member. You will gain access to exclusive channel perks and a Discord server which I frequently use. So become a member of my Zero Division and be the first to know about my upcoming videos. And once again, thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.